All right, today we're going to be starting with the third Perek, the third chapter of Pirkei Avot, of the ethics of our fathers, in which teaches us the way to go. So the first Mishnah here starts off, Akavya b'Mahalel Omer. So now Akavya b'Mahalel, he was in the days of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, which is around the first century by the Churban Bet HaMikdash. So he says, Yistakir b'shelosha devarim, a person should look at three things and they won't come to the hands of an Avera, right? Because generally when a person does an Avera, he does it, you do something wrong, you do something wrong. Bali de Avera is when the actual Avera has you in its grasp. When the actual Avera, when the actual sin already has a hold of you and he already has you doing it multiple times. So what are the three things that he says the person should look at in order not to come to sin? Da, he should know. Me'ayin bata, from where he came from. Ula'ana toholech, and where he's going. Lifnei mi'ata atid, litin din v'cheshbon, and who he's going to wind up having to reckon with. Give a din v'cheshbon. Go through everything he's done in his entire life. So the Mishnah then goes ahead and explains. Me'ayin bata, from where he came, mitipa sirucha. From a putrid drop, every single human being, they come from the same action. Ula'ana toholech, and where you get wind up going to? The makom afari mavatoleya, the place full of maggots and worms, right? Referring to under the ground. And who we're going to wind up having to reckon with? In front of God, the Holy of Holies, blessed be. So the Svarim Akdoshim, once again, I like to preface that our explanation, how we're explaining, is going according to the Shonim, Rashi, the Rambam, Rabbeinu Yonah, and others, the Medrash Shmuel, Keramati, the Levavot, Chacham Avadia, and others. So they actually want to split it up, the Mishnah, into two parts. The first part that's saying that you should look from where you come from, is actually referring to your soul. Look where your soul came from. Your soul came from Tachat Kisei HaKavod. Our soul, where did our soul come from? Right beneath the heavenly throne. Right beneath from where God sits is where our soul comes from. It comes from the holiest place. And when the soul comes down to this world, the person does Torah and mitzvot, he's able to reach the greatest heights ever. He's able to reach higher than an angel. Right? It says when the angels carry the person in the world upstairs. Right? So it's actually the angels can't even go as high as where the soul goes. And all the Torah and mitzvot you did in this world where it leads you to Olam Haba, to the world to come. The problem is that might cause a person to become a Ba'al Gava. It might cause you to become haughty. Look how amazing I am. Look how great I am. My soul comes to such a great height. I'm amazing. And Gava, once again, is the worst thing. Being a haughty person is a terrible thing. So how do we counterbalance the haughtiness? How do we counterbalance the gava? The answer is by looking at where your body comes from. Because man is made up of two parts. We're made up of a soul and we're made up of a body. The soul is eternal. The soul is forever. The neshama is nitzchi. Right? Because why? God, the soul, and the Torah Hadu is one. The same way God is forever and the Torah is forever, our soul is forever. Our bodies, however, are not forever, right? We come to this world, we're here for a certain amount of time, the body goes back, and then Bezrat Hashem, by Tchiyat HaMeitim, we get our body back again, and then we're able to hold the fire body and put it up on a higher level. But we might become haughty by the fact of how great our soul is if we remind us where our body is from. Our body is from a tipa srucha. It's a putrid action between a man and a woman. And once again, there's actually three partners in the creation of man. There's actually three partners in the creation of man. God, a person's father, and a person's mother. And where's the body wind up going? This body that a person goes ahead and he works his entire life for, where does it wind up? It winds up in the ground with worms and maggots eating it. Now, once again, not everybody. It says it winds up in the ground with his worm and maggots. Not everybody winds up being eaten by worm and maggots. Right? It says, who's the one that worms eat up? Somebody who has kinah. Somebody who has jealousy. A jealous person, the worms eat up. But if a person doesn't have jealousy, if you keep away from jealousy your entire life, and you're happy with everything you have, and you're not jealous of other people, then it's not necessarily that the worms are going to eat a person up. Tzaddikim, the worms don't eat up. Right? They went ahead, there was a couple of Batei Kvarot, they used to have to move at certain times. And they found that a lot of the bodies were whole. So that's why it says, L'makom, to the place where there's worms and maggots. And if Nemiyata didn't v'cheshbon, who we have to wind up in the end being judged by? Both our body and our soul gets judged. Both of them get judged. And they get judged by God. There's a reckoning upon our entire life. And there's a story told that the people went to a certain sage, they went to a certain chacham. There was a chacham, he went to a physician who was a pious person. And he wanted a prescription for healing the ills of the soul, to be merapeh the nefesh. And the physician answered, you need to take roots of humility, anava, put it together with leaves of hope, tikva, and expectation, and add to them the twigs of the Torah with the roses of wisdom, and place them all in a motor of repentance and grind them all together. You need all these things. A person needs humbleness. You need to have wisdom. You need to have Torah. You need to have hope. You need to have all these things. But what a person has to keep far away from is ga'ava. And on this, Rabbeinu Yonah says the extremely potent thing. He brings down over here that in this world we have shikha, we have forgetfulness, right? We do something stupid. Takes a while, but after a while we forget about it. And we're able to walk around and we don't worry about what people are going to think or say about us. We don't worry so much. Our soul, however, right, and there's a story. The Bella Penza brings down a story. There was one time in the days of the Arizal, I believe it was, there was one time a fellow, actually I forgot exactly when it was, there was one time a fellow, he owned a store. He owned a business, a flower business. And he was right next door to another flower business. He would have rows of all the stores that were selling the same thing. And he would actually steal from the guy next to him. He had a hole, he would go in, he would open the door. He would steal sacks from the guy next to him. And the guy next to him always was worried, he's always not sure. Why I keep on missing things? Where are my stuff? What's going on here? And he would go back and he was always worried what's going on. Until one day he decided he's going to lock himself in his own store. And he's going to see what's going on. He goes ahead. He hides in the store. And he notices the person comes into the store. Runs over, jumps the guy, turns on the light. And he sees this guy who's right next to him. And this guy right next to him is a pious person. A person everybody thought was a Talmid Chacham. A person everybody thought was a good person. And he caught him. He caught him in the act of robbing. For the next year, the guy stayed in his home. Didn't leave because of the embarrassment, because of the busha. Then afterwards, after a little bit of while, he started going out once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. Went back to the Beit Knesset. All of a sudden, back to everybody else, everything back to normal. That's because our bodies, the way God made our goof, we forget. It's one of the wonders of the way God made us. That we're able to forget these things so that we're not embarrassed on every single second of our life. But our soul, in the world to come, the Olam Hamed, that the Depusha doesn't go away. That embarrassment that you're embarrassed in front of God because of the sins that you did, that doesn't go away, that stays. And that's why a person has to be very careful. That's why if a person thinks about these things, if you think about these things, you won't come to sinning. You won't come to being the clutches of Aveirah that you keep on doing the same sin over and over and over again. But remember, if you only do one of these things, it doesn't have the same effect. Right? If a person only remembers the day of his death, remember what we always said once, people say, YOLO, you only live life once, and people go ahead and they do things. Right? It's all the 3 things together. It's all the components together. One has to go ahead and have in his mind in order to keep him from sinning. Mishnah Bet. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim Omer. Rabbi Chanina, the Skan of the Kohanim. Now, a Skan Kohen was a Skan Kohen Gadol, was a vice Kohen Gadol. He was a vice high priest. Now, generally it's called Skan Kohen Gadol. Why it's a Skan Kohanim? So there's a famous report on a few people. Shlomo Zatzal says it, a few others. That in his days, the Romans controlled everything. And that wasn't just the Romans, you had others. It was a very corrupt system. And Kohen Gadol was one of extremely prestigious position, which had a lot of money involved. And rich people, rich Kohanim would buy the job. They would buy it in order to be Kohen Gadol. and a lot of times they would generally die every single year. They would go into the Beit Kodesh HaKodashim, they would go into the Holy of Holies, and they would die in Yom Kippur. And every year they'd wind up being a new one. And Rabbi Chanina, either there's two versions. One, some say that he wasn't rich enough to be able to buy the position. Others say that his wife told him better not to be Kohen Gadol. So he was Skan HaKohanim, he was Skan Kohen Gadol for many Kohanim Gadolim who died in his lifetime. What did he say? He said, Ave mitpalel b'shlomah shel malchut. Pray for the welfare of the king. Pray for the welfare of the government. Not just a Jewish government, but even a non-Jewish government. That's what we have in Hasidur, and we say it every single Shabbat in the Beit Knesset when we're open. We say Misha Berach for the government. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a government that you agree with. It doesn't have to be a government necessarily that you like. Why? If not for the fact that there was a government, if not for the fact that there were laws, if not for the fact that there was a police force, man would eat up his friend. People wouldn't coexist peacefully, just peacefully together, but for no reason. Sadly, man, a lot of times needs a police force. We need a set of laws. We need a governance in order to keep everybody together. And what protects the Jewish people? The fact that there's laws and government protecting the Jews. And this was throughout history. Even though plenty of times throughout history, the governments were anti-Semitic. But the kings and the governments, a lot of times, tried to protect the Jews against the people. And therefore, we go ahead and we pray for the law. We pray for the government. Because without a government, there would not exist anything. Everything would be nuts. There'd be anarchy. There'd be chaos. And that's why this Misha Berach that we actually say is actually quite an old Misha Berach that was said for many, many, many generations, many millennia. Now, Chanina ben Tardion is the next Tana who has the next Mishnah. Now, Chanina ben Tardion, we have to understand, was one of the Asara Rugi Malchut. He was one of the 10 martyrs that were killed by the Romans. The Romans went ahead and they killed 10 of the martyrs in gruesome deaths. And how was Chanina ben Tardion executed? So it happens to be he would sit and he would learn Torah. Berabim, there was a Gzera against learning Torah. And he would go ahead and he would learn Torah Berabim in a public place, learning with everybody. And in the end, he was caught. It says on the way back from when they buried Rabbi Akiva, on the way back he was caught. But either way, he was caught teaching Torah. And the Romans took him and they wrapped him up in his Sefer Torah. He had a Sefer Torah he would learn from. He wrapped him up in his Sefer Torah and they took cotton, they took wool, and they made it wet and they put it on his heart to try to extend the death, that it should be a slow, painful death. And he was sitting there burning. And his daughter told him, "What do you see? What's going on here?" She said, "This is the Torah, this is the schar, this is the reward." And he told her, if I was being burned without my Sefer Torah, I'd be worried. But now that I'm burning with my Sefer Torah, the same one, the same God, right? The same one who's going to ask that you pay up for the embarrassment that would happen to the Sefer Torah is going to come and go ahead and say, you have to pay up for what they're doing to me. And the students asked him, remember, one of his daughters married Rabbi Meir. One of his daughters, Rabbi, she married Rabbi Meir. The students asked him, "Rabbi, what do you see?" And he says, "As I see the parchments burning from the Sefer Torah, I see the letters of the Sefer Torah flying off the parchment and going up in the sky." The executioner is very moved by everything. And he asked him, he says, "Rabbi, if I go ahead and I remove the wool from your heart and add some more flames that you die quicker and you don't have as much pain, will you guarantee me a place in the world upstairs with you?" And he said yes. So the executioner took off the wall from there and he added more wood and he jumped into the fire. And a bat-kol came out and said that Chanina ben Tardion and his executioner were both merited a spot upstairs in the world to come. So you have to understand that. And that's what Rebbe said, yes, a person could be koneh alama b'sha'achat. A person could attain his place in the world to come in 1 minute, in 1 second, 1 hour. What did Rabbi Chanina ben Tardion say? What is this wisdom that he wanted to impart in us? He said, "Shnaim sheyoshvim ve'im b'neim divrei Torah." 2 people are sitting, Two people are walking. Two people are gathered together and they're not learning Torah. There's no words of Torah that pass between the two of them. This is as if it's a group just sitting there, scorners, people sitting there talking about garbage. Moshev Leitzim is a terrible thing to let's. Leitzim are people who make fun, making fun of everything. That's not a good thing. People talk sheker. Shenem Moshev Leitzim lo yashav. Now, these Sfarim, the rabbis, they're very medaktek. They say, you know what this even means? This even means two people sitting and learning, but they don't learn together. Two people sitting together, they're both learning, but not together. They don't talk to each other in Torah. It's the same exact thing. But you know what happens when you're sitting and you're walking in the street with somebody, and you turn to him and you say Dvar Torah. It doesn't have to be talking Torah the entire time. You say Dvar Torah, you say a chidush, you say something. Shechina, shruya v'neim, the Shechina, the heavenly divine presence rests between them. Shenemar, like it says in the pasuk, Az nidabrei yirei Hashem ish harei ve'akshev Hashem ha'yishma ve'katev sefer zikaron lefanav yirei Hashem l'chosh v'shemo. The Shechina rests between the two of them, and the Shechina is with them. Now you should know. How do I know even one person sitting alone? And he sits and he learns Torah. He opens up a sefer at night and he goes through a little bit of Torah. How do we know the Shekhinah rests upon him as well in such a case? The Shekhinah rests upon you when you're sitting and learning Torah no matter what. It's best to learn with a partner. This, right? It sharpens each other. But if you don't have somebody to learn with, and you learn by yourself, the Shekhinah sits with you, even in your home. It doesn't matter who you are. The Shekhinah is sitting with you. And that's why we did the story we might have mentioned once, that in Volozhin Yeshiva, there was a boy who was going around. He sat and learned Torah all day and night. And they asked him, how did he reach such a level that he's sitting learning Torah all day and night? So he said when he was younger, he would walk around. He wouldn't learn the whole time. He would walk around and he wanted to talk to people. He couldn't sit in one spot. And Reb Chaim Volozhin one time came over to him and told him, listen, if you need to close your Gemara because you are antsy, okay. But you have to understand that when you're sitting and learning Torah, even by yourself, God is sitting opposite you with a Gemara as well. God is sitting opposite you with a Mishnayot as well. God is sitting opposite you with a Tehillim as well. Even just reading Tehillim, God sits opposite with you and he's learning the same exact thing as you. So if you want to shut it, how can you shut God's Gemara? That's what he told him. We have to realize it's everything. It's Torah, Tehillim, every little thing that you do, the Shekhinah rests with you. God is sitting opposite you. He's learning with you. It's an amazing thing. A person shouldn't squander such an opportunity. And it's an opportunity that we can do every single day. And it's a chiyuv, you're supposed to learn twice a day. Kavei yitim the Torah. Rabbi Shimon Omer. Rabbi Shimon, this is referring to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He said, Shlosha sha'achlu al shulchan echad. V'lo amru alav divrei Torah. See, this is a continuation. 3 people are sitting by a table and they don't learn any Torah. Ki'ilu achlu mizivchei meitim. It's as if they are eating on a table for sacrificing to the dead. Shnamiki shulchanot malu kitzoah. The tables are full of feces. Believe makom, there's no place. Aval but shlosha sha'achlu al shulchan echad v'amru alav divrei Torah. But if you sit by a table and you say words of Torah, it's as if you're eating from the table of God. Where do we see that? You have to understand something. We're sitting around the table in our home. It's in our house. Not in the Bet Knesset. It's not in the Bet Midrash. The table's in our home. And we sit to Shabbat, Friday night, and we're sitting down to eat. So we have a very interesting custom. We have something called Zmirot. Zmirot Shabbat. And we sing Zmirot on Shabbat. Why we sing Zmirot on Shabbat by the Shabbat table? Why? So one of the reasons it's brought down is because Shabbat is, remember, the holiest day, and you have to make sure not to talk Tvarim B'Teilim on Shabbat. You're supposed to say, not to talk Sheker, not to talk Lashon Hara Shabbat. To talk Lashon Hara is the worst. So therefore, they made sure that right when you sit down by the Shabbat table, What do? You start singing a song. Singing songs. You don't have time to talk Lashon Hara. But more than that, not just you sing songs. You say Divrei Torah. And you go ahead and you say Divrei Torah by your Shabbat table. It turns, and not just by your Shabbat table, by your weekday table also. It turns that table into a mundane table, into the Mizbeach in the Beit HaMikdash, into the Shulchan in the Heichal. It makes that every single thing you eat is like a korban. Is like a korban that you bring to God. It makes the whole table holy. There are those actually that wanted to say, the Rabbeinu Avadi Bar Tunura, the Rav wanted to say, that what does it mean to talk Torah by your table? Birchat HaMazon. He said, even Birchat HaMazon, according to the Rav, changes your table into a Mizbeach. According to others, the Tosfot Yom Tov says, what do you mean? Everybody has to say Birchat HaMazon. So what does it mean? The first case, they're sitting there not learning Torah. Obviously, they're still saying Birchat HaMazon. So he says it has to be actually speaking Torah. Yeah, Chavadi wants to take an in-between approach. But either way, we have to realize there's a certain way our table, there's a certain etiquette by our tables. Once we're talking about it, there are certain rules brought down in the Torah, certain rules brought down in Halakha, for such as a guest is not supposed to bring an uninvited guest. I mean, if I invite you to my house for Shabbat, you're not supposed to bring somebody without telling me first. Another thing, you shouldn't give food to children without the permission of the host. Number 3, a guest should not overstay his welcome. Right, which a lot of times happens. Right, the guest comes and you want him to leave already. He's not ready to leave. Next, the host, he goes first into the house and then the guest goes into the house. But when he leaves, the guest leaves and you're supposed to walk your guest out of the house. Rabbi Akiva one time invited his students to teach them how to conduct themselves by a meal. You don't lick your fingers. Right? You don't pick up a large piece of meat and put it in your mouth. You cut it up and put it in your mouth. All these things they brought down in Gemara. You don't wipe your plate with a piece of bread. You don't eat too quickly. You consume every bit on your paper. You don't let out gas. When you sneeze, you turn aside. When you only cover your mouth. Right? You don't drink from the same cup as other people. You don't drink that entire cup in one shot rather than 2 gulps. There are so many laws brought down in the Shulchan Aruch just simply how to eat. Because you have to remember that your table is a holy place. It's not just a mundane place. It's holy. That's why we mentioned you're supposed to have salt on the table. Why do you have salt on the table? Because every single korban had salt on it. And that's why you always have salt on the table. And we have to realize, if a person just sits down just to eat, just to fulfill his bodily functions, just because he wants to, I want to eat, he's squandering a massive opportunity. You could turn every single time you eat into a mitzvah. You could turn every bite of food you eat into a korban. By making a bracha on it, birchat hamazon on it. By saying divrei Torah by your table. So simple to change it from a mundane meal, which can wind up sometimes coming to Averot, to a holy meal. And this leads in to the next Mishnah, which is Rabbi Chanina ben Chachinai. Rabbi Chanina ben Chachinai says, Hanoer ba'alayla va'amalech b'derech yichidi u'mifano liba levatala arei ze metchayev b'nafsho. What does this mean? He says somebody who stays awake at night and walks through the streets alone, and he turns his heart not to Torah. He's guilty with his soul. What does this mean? This doesn't mean that you're not allowed to be up at night. This doesn't mean you're not allowed to walk in the street by yourself. What this means is there are special times. The night is a special time for Torah. A special time for Torah. There are wisdom that a person can have in Torah at night that he can never attain during the day. It's extremely special. And if you're going to waste your night, it's better to go to sleep. Better to go to sleep. If you're not going to waste your night, if you're going to learn Torah, better to stay up and learn Torah. Same thing when you're walking in the street. You're walking in the street by yourself. So back in the days of the Mishnah, there was something called Shedim. There were demons, and there were all these different things that could attack a person when he's walking by himself. However, if you're learning Torah, none of these things could affect the person. None of these mazikim could affect the person if he's learning Torah as he's going. And that's something which is extremely special that a person should realize. A person's ever in a situation that he's worried for whatever reason. For whatever reason, the person's worried. Go ahead and learn Torah. Think about a Mishnah. You say to them, these things protect you. These things protect you wherever you are. And we also find Shavuot night. We find by Shavuot night that a person is supposed to go ahead and stay up all night and learn Torah. Right? He's supposed to stay up and learn Torah all night. And not just that Rizal said that a person stays up and learns Torah all night on Shavuot night, he'll be zocher that nothing bad will harm him the entire year that year. The entire year, nothing bad is going to happen to him. But that's only if he stays up and he learns Torah. But if he stays up the night of Shavuot and he doesn't learn Torah, he just wastes his time. Then what do we see from this Mishnah? He's going ahead and he's sealing himself for terrible decrees. That a person has to make sure that you're going to stay up, but stay up and learn Torah. We're going to do one more Mishnah. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. He lived in the 1st and 2nd century. He lived in the same time as Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was a teacher of Yishmael ben Adisha. He was extremely wealthy, but he was extremely patient. He lived in extremely old age. Extremely old he lived. And he's also the mechaber of Ana B'Koach. We see Ana B'Koach. He's the one who created Ana B'Koach. He's the one mechaber of it. And he said as follows: Kol ha'mekabel alav ol Torah ma'avirim mimenu ol malchut v'ol derech eretz. V'chol ha'porek mimenu ol Torah noten alav ol malchut v'ol derech eretz. A person in his life will always have a yoke upon him. He's always going to have something that's on him. Now remember, a yoke that is used to lead animals is not just used to push the animal down, but it's also used to lead its head, right? You need to steer the animal, you have the yoke on it to steer it. If a person goes ahead and he makes that the Torah is his guide, if he makes that his entire day is all about Torah, and it's all Torah, he accepts upon himself the yoke of Torah and mitzvot, he's going to spend his time learning Torah. He's going to spend his time doing Maasim Tovim. He's going to spend his time doing mitzvot. That one winds up being the yoke of the government, the yoke of Derech Eretz, the yoke of having to Parnasah, the yoke of everything else is lifted off of him. He has no worries in his life, only he has Torah. Not just that, a person who sits and he spends his time only on Torah, he sets his sights on the mundane pleasures of this world at a much lower level. He's not looking for the fancy Maseratis. He's not looking for the expensive stuff. He's happy with what he has. He's happy with what he has. That's the person who accepts upon himself the all of Torah. He's not worried about any of these all these other things. But one who goes ahead that one winds up being that never ever works out. Never ever works out. In every single generation, whenever the Jewish people have tried to assimilate with the surroundings around them, have tried to buck the yoke of Torah, have tried to become one with their non-Jewish brethren, it never ever winds up good. It never ever winds up with them ahead. It never ever winds up with them having what they want. They always wind up suffering in the end from that same government that they thought that they were fitting into, from that same society that they thought was accepting them. And we see it right now, what's going on in New York. We had anti-Semitism crazy this past year. You have a mayor who targets Jews. Yes, the Jews, they might have not been fully at right before it happened, but they target against all the Jews, not just the Jews that were not listening, but all the Jews, even the Jews that are listening to the social distancing. They go ahead and they're giving out masks, right? They go to all the parks. If you're not wearing a mask, they give you a mask. You have to go to Bar Park in Williamsburg and they see you not wearing a mask, they give you a summons. What was the difference? They were Jewish, they were not Jewish. The point of the matter is, we think that we're all entrenched in society. We have assemblymen and councilmen and all these things, all Jewish, senators, all Jewish. It doesn't help anything. It doesn't help anything. The only thing is, if you accept upon yourself the yoke of Torah, the yoke of mitzvot, the yoke of God, everything else is lifted off of you. But if you go ahead and you accept upon yourself, if you have on you, you want the yoke of this world, of everything around you, you want to fit into your surroundings always, it never winds up right. And there's a story brought down, Chamavadia brings down the story, that the students, by the World War I, the students of the Hafetz Chaim, they came to him, they were worried that they were going to be drafted into the army. And they came to him and they said, what's going to be our lot? And the Hafetz Chaim told them, if you guys sit and learn Torah, you accept upon yourself the yoke of Torah, you're going to be okay, you're going to be able to sit and learn Torah. They said, what do you mean? There were plenty of guys in yeshiva that were drafted into the army. So the answer, it all depends upon the amount that you accept upon yourself the old Torah. It all depends upon the amount that you dedicate yourself only to Torah mitzvot. And based upon that is how much the yoke of the government is able to affect you. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all fully be entrenched in the yoke of Torah, fully be entrenched in the camp of Torah. And because of that, we should have the Ol Malchut and the Ol of Derech Eretz, all the mundane worries of the world should be lifted off of us. And be zocher to the Gula Shlema b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.